Hi, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards. I'm a poet, artist, author, creative, philosopher, educator, photographer from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. In this series, I'm sharing a number of rules that I've bent because I'd like people just to get an idea of how I think and why people may think I'm a little different. Hopefully not odd, but different. And even if odd, maybe in a beautiful godly way. But anyway, I'm sharing these rules that I've bent so that people can get to know me a little better. Hopefully, I would become a little less intimidating to people because it's really never my intention to intimidate people or to make people feel uncomfortable. To be honest, I think a lot of times that comes from people's insecurity, but I can kind of understand. If you meet somebody who kind of feels like a giant, it can be kind of intimidating, and it's not my intention to intimidate people. The other reason I'm sharing these rules that I've bent is because I'm thinking it might help somebody or encourage somebody, or even if you, like myself, are a creative, on the gifted end of the spectrum, so to speak, then this may be useful for you. And even if you have not explored the gifts that God has generously poured into you, maybe these series of videos will be encouraging for you, will inspire you to really explore who you are or who you can be in God, in Jesus Christ. Anyway, in this video, what I'm going to be talking about is actually talking to God. So hopefully this is going to be short and sweet. So conventional theological wisdom or conventional Christian wisdom says when you spend quality time with God, what Christians tend to call quiet time, the average believer would say you need to get really quiet so that you can hear God's voice. And actually, I think that's good advice, right? But in my case, I have to admit, this is not how it's worked. And maybe in this case, I can't say that this is a rule I've bent. I actually think it's a rule that God has bent. In this particular season of my life, and you're getting a little peephole into my relationship with God, but in this particular season of my life, what I have found is when I talk, God talks. When I hush, God hushes. When I speak, God speaks. When I shut up, God shuts up. It's very unusual. So, um, the reason why I think this is happening possibly is because I find myself in a season of life where, unfortunately, people are constantly trying to muzzle me. People are constantly stuffing cotton in my mouth or trying to put what you call that tape? Not masking tape. Trying to put not masking tape, some kind of tape. You know what I mean? Duct tape. People are constantly, trying to stick duct tape over my lips. People are constantly trying to tie down my tongue. People don't like to hear me say what I have to say because I'm a truth teller. And the unfortunate reality is that most people don't like to hear the truth. You remember what movie was that? A Few Good Men? Was that it? I can't remember what it was. It was that movie. I can't remember what the movie was with Tom Cruise and what's the name of that guy? The one who said you can't handle the truth, right? Most people unfortunately cannot handle the truth. But God has designed me to be a truth teller, right? So it's really interesting to me that at least in this season of my life, who knows, it may change. Maybe I'll get to the place where God says, you actually need to speak a little less. So I'm going to reverse the script, but I'm not in that place yet. So for me, I would say, in my case anyway, I don't know if anybody else is having this experience, but when I talk, that's when God talks. When I hush, everything goes silent. So for example, I'll explain how that works. Let's say I'm having a conversation with God about, let's say I'm having okay, let me tell you what happened last night, for example. Last night, I was praying in different languages. That's one of the things that I do because I like doing that, and actually sometimes when I pray in other languages, I just flow very differently. But anyway, I was praying in other languages last night, in Spanish, in French, in Chinese. But one of the languages that I kind of know, but I tend not to pray in, is German. Because my German, as far as I can tell, is intermediate level, and I don't feel as confident about my German. But last night, while I was praying in, I think I was praying in French at the time, French or Spanish or Chinese. I can't remember which one at the time. Maybe Chinese, because Chinese was the last one I was praying in. I can't remember because I was kind of going back and forth and moving all around in all of these different languages, going kind of in and out of different languages. But at one point, just as I was kind of getting ready to, say, okay, God, I'm going to get ready to go to bed now, kind of thing, I sensed God say, I sensed a nudge in my spirit, like, why don't you pray in German? But this is in the middle of me praying in the other language, in some other language. And I sense God saying, yeah, what about German? Why aren't you praying in German? So I said, gosh, yeah, that's true. I don't pray in German. And so I started praying in German. And I realized that I had a flow in German. Like I could use the the limited vocabulary that I have to express some beautiful truths. Like I said, mein Gott ist mein Geld. Mein Gott ist mein Geld. My God is my gold. And gold could be money, and gold could be literal gold, So I said, yeah, my God is my gold. And I said, mein Gott ist mein alles. God is my everything, Gott ist mein alles. And so I was expressing simple things in German, sometimes longer sentences and that. And I realized that, I was doing okay, So that's a really interesting example of how sometimes while I'm in the middle of speaking, God actually speaks back. And it's not disconcerting. It's not distracting. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like, maybe I could say my mind is operating at two frequencies at the same time, maybe. So like I'm talking to God, I'm conscious of what I'm saying to God, but on another level, I'm also conscious that God is riffing off of what I'm saying and speaking back to me, if that makes sense, And of course, there are times when God speaks to me when I'm not speaking. For example, a good example of that is when I wake up in the morning, or if I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear a song in my heart. Like when the psalmist says, and you shall have a song in the night. Yes, I have experiences like that with God as well. Now, all of us are unique. God may speak to us in different ways. God is a personal God. He'll speak in the way that speaks to you at the deepest levels of who you are, right? So I'm really curious, how does God speak to you? Are there any rules that you've bent, or are there any rules that have worked for you? Because like I say, we don't necessarily have to break every single rule. I mean, rules are really guardrails, right? So it doesn't make sense to be constantly breaking rules, but there are some rules that we can break sometimes, and that can work really well for us. Like as an artist, there are certain artistic principles that I can apply, certain traditional principles, elements of art, principles of design that I can apply to really bring out the best in my artwork. But there are times when I break those rules, right? There are times when I break those rules. But guess what? As I've heard a former Hallmark artist say, somebody that I know, Jenny, hail out to Jenny. Jenny, you know who you are. I remember her telling me that you have to learn the rules before you can break them. So I think in my earlier Christian days, typically, yes, I would be quiet and I would hear the Lord. I think that's how it worked. But in this season, I'm in a whole different place with God. So in this season, God is saying, Nika, I see all the people who are trying to shut you up. And you know what? I'm interested in what you have to say. I want you to talk. I want you to feel comfortable expressing yourself. I want to hear your opinions, even if I disagree with them, or even if they need adjusting here or there. I mean, so I think in my case, the reason why God talks to me in the middle of me talking to him is to encourage me to be confident about making my voice heard, to be confident about speaking out, even having confidence in the fact that if God doesn't have an issue with me having strong opinions about things, then I don't have to worry about other people who have an issue with me having an opinion, an independent opinion about all kinds of things, even if they're controversial. So that's it. This video was a little longer than I meant it to be, but this is another rule that I am currently breaking. How long it will continue, I don't know, but I hope this was helpful to you. Please feel free to share some of your experiences when it comes to hearing the voice of God, walking with God. Are there things that are traditionally taught that work for you? How do they work for you? Why do they work for you? And are there things that maybe people would consider deal breakers because they're rule breakers, but that you feel the Holy Spirit is endorsing? I'm not talking about spooky weirdness, right? But please feel free to share your experiences in the comment section. I would love to hear them. And well, until the next time.